Hey, this is Ralph from the CML engineering team. And since I've seen quite a few questions regarding the use of the breakout tool with CML, I thought I would do a quick video giving you some idea how I use the breakout tool. And it's relatively simple, so I hope that someone can take away, one tip or another using the breakout tool. All right, so I have a lab here running on my laptop. This is actually in a virtual machine, and what you're seeing here is a Windows virtual machine that I use to demonstrate the use of the breakout tool. So lab is running over here. I'm going to the tools section, download the breakout tool for Windows, and keep the file. And then next thing I do is I'm opening up a terminal and just make sure that the tool actually works. So let's see, downloads, damn it, downloads, and then breakout. And yes, the tool does work. Now, what I typically do is I do create a directory for the lab that I'm working with. So let's say my lab, change into that directory, my lab, if I could type, no, cd my lab. And then what I do is, let's see, downloads breakout, and then do config. And what this does, it writes the configuration file into config.yaml. I can open that file, notepad config.yaml. And now I need to put in the information about my system, what I want to use, right? So there's a couple of things here mentioned up. You could do this, mentioned up here, that you could do this using breakout environment variables. But what I will do here is I will put in my IP address 192.168.122.170. Important here, I put this to false because I don't have a valid cert. I keep the username, I add a password. And the other thing that I wanted to do is I want to change this to localhost because my VNC tool doesn't talk IPv6, so it seems to struggle with that address. So I put this to localhost, or like 172.127.0.0.1. That's basically it. So I put in the password, I put in the cert information, and that's it, right? So I save this thing, go back to my terminal, and now run breakout, but this time init. So this goes to the controller, fetches all the information, and writes a new file. So we now have this labs.yaml file in here, and I can open this up again with Notepad. And you'll see that the lab that I'm currently running is in here. So this is the serial demo that I was showing earlier in the web browser. So now I can simply click on true here and say, okay, so this thing should now work, because I could have multiple labs that are running at the same time, which could potentially clash in the port numbers that are being used. And what I also do in this particular case, I do change the port for Nginx, for example, to serial 1. But those things, I mean, typically the only thing that you would need to do is to change the enable to true up here, and that's it, right? So, and that's pretty much everything. I save this again and go back to my terminal and now run the third command, which is breakout run. And this opens up all the ports that are needed, and you can see that I have my various switches on these various ports. I have my Firefox on VNC, and I have my Nginx server over here. So now I could go and say, let's make this small, open up this guy, and then go to localhost and port 9001 and choose Telnet and open. And voila, there's my router 1, right? And I could do the same thing for type BNC, or like Firefox in this case, which is then again localhost default is 5900 as indicated down here, and say connect, and voila, this is my Firefox container that runs inside of my lab, made available using BNC. So that's also no problem at all. So yeah, so this is how I usually work. And this doesn't use the UI, but it doesn't have to use the UI. The UI was more or less an experiment that had been done over Christmas a couple of years ago. And so this was the original idea, to use this entirely from the command line. I think this is really super straightforward. There's not a lot of things that you need to remember, like the thing like config, like init, and then run. And if you keep this thing within a directory, so like if you create a directory with those files for every lab that you interact with, then this stuff here will remain the same. I mean, you will not have to change the labs file, like, unless you add more nodes or something, of course, but otherwise this stays the same. And you could do like a different labs file into a different folder and then just run in that folder, breakout run, and it will give you the table of the different ports and so on and so forth. You could also change information in the labs file. Let's say you want to have different ports or something, but typically this works reasonably well. So yeah, I hope this clarifies some of the misconceptions, or like, the problems, or like the difficulties some people might have, and I really would recommend to use the command line as I was just showing, and that works the same way on Linux and on Mac OS, so there is not a lot of difference there. The command works the same, yeah, let me know. Thank you.